Hi everybody, I'm Skip Alzheimer. Welcome to the AV Geeks lunchtime streaming show where we watch old 16mm films, and I move this stool out of the way. I'm gonna try to figure out a way to balance. Man, it's weird. If I do this, what happens? Nope, it's still blocking it. Anyways, you think I would have figured that out by now. My god, we've done how many shows so far? This is our 659th show, which means actually our 666th show is going to be coming up. So 660 would be, so maybe in 2 weeks. Wow, that's exciting. Anyways, so I watch old 16mm films from our collection, and you just happen to be along for the ride, and it's so great that I have an audience. I wish you were here with me. I wish we could watch them together, and we could comment together and giggle together and all that, but we can't. But we're doing the best we can with the miracle of the internet. So let's get things started with our good friend James Brill from Encyclopedia Britannica. Talking about the teeth. Enjoy.
We use the foods. In this film, we find out how teeth develop and grow, which help to build strong teeth, and how the dentist cares for our teeth. A baby's first tooth is always an exciting event. It was, however, forming in baby's jaw even before he was born. 6 months before birth, soft tissue masses in the jaw begin forming the teeth. Gradually, the tooth shape develops, and the hardening process begins. At birth, the crown of the tooth is almost completely formed, and the root begins to develop. Even before the root is fully formed, the tooth pushes through the jaw and gum. The teeth gum one after another. These first teeth are called baby teeth. Enamel makes up the tooth's hard protective covering. Dentine, softer than the enamel, forms the body of the tooth. Cementum covers the root of the tooth, and the pulp is the soft center part which contains blood vessels and nerves. The four parts are enamel, dentine, cementum, and pulp. Now repeat these parts to yourselves. Enamel, dentine, cementum, and pulp. Before the baby was born, the first tooth gave off a bud that began forming a second or permanent tooth. It takes about 4 years for the enamel to develop fully. The root formation begins afterwards and is completed about 3 years later. Before the root is fully completed, the tooth pushes through to replace the first tooth. This is the second or permanent tooth. The permanent teeth appear in the following order in the lower jaw: first molars, central incisors, lateral incisors, cuspids, first bicuspids, second bicuspids, second molars, and finally, the third molars or wisdom teeth. Remember, the baby teeth appear first, followed by the second or permanent teeth. The 6-year molars are usually the first permanent teeth. From the start, they should therefore be given special care. The small grooves or fissures on the grinding surfaces of the molars often are poorly formed. They are places where bacteria thrive. When the groove is deep, it allows bacteria and food particles to gather and start decay. Bacteria also find food particles and hiding places on the smooth surfaces between the teeth. It is hard to keep these places clean. In these places, the mucin in the saliva deposits a film or spongy substance. Within this film substance, certain acid-producing bacteria feed on sugars and starches. As these bacteria digest sugars and starches, they produce acids represented here as black dots. These acids dissolve the cementum, and pieces of enamel break away. The bacteria multiply, and the decay penetrates still further into the tooth. When decay is allowed to continue, large cavities result. When the decay enters the dentine, the nerve is soon affected. The tooth may now start to ache. Decay into the pulp of the tooth may lead to infection and loss of the tooth. Some foods are easily changed into acids by bacteria in the mouth, particularly foods made from white sugar or white flour. Therefore, we can help to prevent decay of our teeth by avoiding foods made from white sugar or white flour. Meals made up largely of whole wheat bread, leafy vegetables, fruits, and milk are always good, and especially for the teeth. Oranges, apples, tomatoes contain vitamin C. This vitamin helps to build strong teeth and keep the gums healthy. Milk is the best single food for a healthy body. It has calcium in large amounts and phosphorus. Mary visits her dentist twice a year. Dr. Davis examines Mary's teeth. He cleans especially between the teeth and in irregular places. He cleans around the gum edges and on the smooth surfaces between the teeth. After scraping Mary's teeth, Dr. Davis polishes them. If he finds tiny decay spots, he fills the cavities immediately before the decay penetrates deep into the tooth. A local anesthetic can be used if the tooth is sensitive. Not even a dentist can clean the fissures. Dr. Davis fills the crevices before bacteria can start decay. Now, he shows Mary a good way to brush her teeth. First, clean the grinding surfaces, brushing back and forth, thus cleaning crevices and fissures of the molars. Next, with rotary strokes, brush the inside surfaces of the teeth, rotating from the gum over the teeth towards the biting surfaces. Now, brush the outer surfaces in the same manner. Take about 12 strokes on each place. The rotary strokes massage the gums and stimulate blood circulation that keeps gums healthy. The teeth should be brushed at least twice every day, morning and night. Teeth that have been neglected for a long time require painful and costly treatment. Many people suffer serious illnesses because of infection from bad teeth. Others lose much time from their work. Some must have teeth extracted because of neglect. Adults who have given teeth proper care have helped to preserve their teeth for many years. Many cities counties, and schools have programs for dental care. Many cities have community health centers or special clinics where children may receive dental care if they cannot go to a dentist. In the clinic, the children are taught how to care for their teeth. The toothbrush drill is given by the dental hygienist. The X-ray machine takes pictures that show the inside of a tooth. Dentists study these X-rays to find decayed spots which they could not otherwise detect. They immediately take care of this decay to prevent further tooth destruction. Although the community, through its health program, strives for good health in all, still the main responsibility for healthy teeth depends on one of us. We must do three things. First, we must eat the proper foods. Second, we must clean our teeth every day. And third, visit the dentist regularly. Will you all read these rules aloud?
Read those rules aloud. Yeah, I like that this one wanted you to participate to help drive home the message. I have quite a few dental hygiene films, and that one's pretty great. And James Brill, of course, is our man who narrated almost all the Encyclopedia Britannica films before a certain date. I discovered something interesting on Facebook. Of course, many of us are members of groups that show like old parts of the town or city or county that we live in. And somebody posted this photo, which is of it's called Capitol Heights. Capitol Heights is kind of in downtown Raleigh, not too far from downtown. And this is the housing development that was built in 1947, 48. And this is a photo that was shown it was in the paper in 1948. And what is really cool is 714 Tyler Road. We can see the little house that became the AV Geeks archive. This is before it was added on to many times and became a boarding house. So that little screened-in porch to the right was actually fleshed out into a real room. And then that was added onto, and then there was a thing put in the back. There's also a little creek in the back, which causes a lot of problems nowadays because it rains and it floods. So I have to make sure that the basement is not having problems when we have big rains. But the interesting thing is that this was published in 1948, and according to tax records, this house was built in 1951. So right off the bat, 1951 is not correct, we found out. So this house is actually 3 years older than I thought. All right, so there's how old documents help us figure stuff out. And that's why one of the reasons we collect and we show the films that we have is that they're old documents and they help us to show stuff, figure out stuff. So some dental hygienist or some dentist might watch that last film and say like, huh, that's interesting. Yeah, that totally changed. Or wow, they used to call it that, but now they call it this. So very fascinating. All right, so behind me is a film on the film scanner, and it is new, it's neat, and it's obsolete. So it's new because we haven't seen it before, it's neat, and the format is considered obsolete by most people. So enjoy.
with the best deals in town. Take a look at this little beauty, a 69 Chevy, license YSCO27, radio, heater, economy mileage. Blue Book says quote this car at Louis you can get for $995. How about an extra car for the wife? Here's just the thing, a 65 Pontiac Le Mans. It's got tires, headlights, brakes, and windshield wipers. Plenty of way, and you can have it for... You see that? It's typical. That's the trouble with things these days. They don't last. You talk about TVs, you talk about anything. Cars. You're looking for exceptional value in a fine quality used car these days, I got one word for you. Watch out. Oh, you think I'm going to try and sell you one of these cars? Not me. I'm just going to clue you in on a couple of facts. They're straight dope. I get a lot of people say to me, Louis, how do you stay within the family budget and still find exceptional value? I tell them, you got me, Jack. The trouble with cars, the same trouble with everything else these days. They don't last. You take your highways and byways. You see any automobiles more than 5, 6 years old? Are you kidding? You drive a car a couple of years, it breaks down. Most cars start out looking like this, but pretty soon they look like this. People ask me, they say, Louis, what is the reason for this condition? How come things don't last like they used to? I tell them the reason is fashion. That's right, style. It means crazy. Fashion is why people, who are most of the time very intelligent, are willing to throw away perfectly good merchandise and buy new. So their stuff ain't built to last in the first place. The way fashion works is very simple. Whatever you're wearing, they tell you it's no good. You gotta buy something new. You got a wide tie? They tell you skinny ties are in. You can't win. The faster you buy a tie, the faster it goes out of style. It's crazier than a can of jungle juice. You don't believe? Take a look. How come anybody's willing to get caught in those crazy duds? And with cars, it's the same thing. Everybody's waiting for the new styles to come out. What's the new dash going to be? The new front end. It don't make no difference. But come September, everybody's itching to buy. And it's precisely this type of behavior that makes your car and my car go out of style. Makes the value depreciate. Makes it hard for a guy like me to move these babies, quality automobiles, and nobody wants them. So what happens to them? Look. And furniture goes out of style. Houses. Even huge buildings. Everything goes out of style. And the guys that make the stuff are wise to this. They know as soon as a guy buys one thing, he starts to want a new one. And so there ain't no point in building the first one, so it's going to last. Here, let me show you what I'm talking about. Here on the left, we got a brand new car battery. Stores electricity. You use it in your car, it's going to last, what, a couple of years? But then it gets corroded and cracked, like brand X here. And it's shot. Kaput. You throw it away. Now, on the other hand, the car makers could give you this model. A top-flight quality battery, and it don't wear out. Guaranteed for the life of the automobile. So how come they don't install these honeys on all the new cars? Because they cost a little more money. And the car manufacturers figure you'd rather spend your dough on peekaboo headlights and snappy two-tone paint jobs. So they skip on the battery, and it goes on the fritz. Now, with an automobile, the battery is just one of millions of things that can go wrong. But the whole car don't conk out, just part of it. The crank, the trans, the valve casings, but you scrap the whole banana. Not just the body and the engine, but your paint job, and also many other fine features like AM, FM, power steering, power brakes, factory air, etc., most of which are in perfectly operating condition. That's the way it works. The guys that make the merchandise want just part of it to break down, so you junk the whole Megillah and buy more. To me, this makes no sense. And I ain't just talking about automobiles. Look, if the guys who made all this stuff had their way, this huge bulldozer would come along every 5 years or so and scrape up all the old stuff. Shove it all in a big meat grinder where it gets ground into new stuff, and you pay to get it back. But sometimes it takes too long for a thing to wear out or go out of style. The manufacturer can't wait that long. So they invented something else, the gimmick. You take a simple thing like a razor. For shaving, the edge on this blade is the thing you're interested in. The whole rest of this thing is 24-karat solid gimmick. Look, razors started out like this. You got a blade, you use it. It gets dull, you sharpen it up, you use it again. And then they sell you a safety razor with throwaway blades. All right, I can see the point. You don't want to slice off your ear. Then comes stainless steel blades. Okay, maybe you get a couple extra shaves out of them, and they don't get stained. Then come blue blades. They ain't no better, just blue. Then come the real gimmicks. Blades, bonded blades, cartridge blades, double-edged blades, injector blades, chromium blades, platinum blades. All of these blades fit different. And each new kind of blade, you gotta get a new kind of razor. And I ain't even gonna start in on the electric razors. In a couple of years, you got 5 different kinds of razors. You're spending 10 times as much for the same old shave. But razors are cheap items. Let me tell you about an expensive item, the camera. The camera racket's got more gimmicks than Carter's got pills. You start out with a Brownie. Takes pretty good snapshots. But then color comes out, the film gets smaller, you need a new camera. Polaroid film, another new camera. Flash, another new camera. Use small film, new pocket camera. Pop-out Polaroid, new camera. You get the picture. But razors and cameras are just the beginning. Take a look. Gimmicks on parade. You'll notice they don't gimmick up an old reliable like the Acme plumber's helper. But listen, I ain't saying that every new item that comes out is a gimmick. Don't get me wrong, Louis Ballou does not stand in the way of progress. What I'm saying is that everybody's got to decide for himself that which is gimmick and that which ain't. And myself personally, I couldn't get by without my electric brush. But it's like in the automobile business. The customer gets what he pays for. You buy gimmick, you get gimmick. You buy fashion, you get fashion. The trouble for me is, the more the fashions change, the harder it is to move these sweeties. And so I get stuck, and you get stuck, and the guy who sold this car new is doing the hoochie-coochie all the way to the bank. So I get a lot of people ask me, Louis, what can we do about this situation? And I tell them, plenty. And it ain't none of this write your congressman jazz, neither. I got the answer right here in my pocket. A singleton. A buck. This works. It works simple. All you gotta do, don't buy. Let me tell you a little story. Once upon a time, back in the late 50s, the car manufacturers decided to really take the public for a ride. One of the automotive features that became fashionable was the taillight. Taillights got huge. They got so huge they wouldn't fit on the backs of cars anymore. So the designers came up with a gimmick way to stick a huge taillight on a car's rear end. It was called a fin. The fins got bigger and bigger until downtown traffic looked like a school of sharks. Detroit thought these cars would go a long way, but the guy with the buck said phooey. People stopped buying, and ever since, automotive design has been a little less crazy. All of which shows the power of the guy who refuses to fall for a sucker deal. Now, I ain't saying you gotta be a tightwad. Don't get me wrong. I'm saying spend. But you buy something cheap and cheesy, you're gonna have to throw it away and buy a new one. So show a little class. Buy a nice conservative tie. Find the kind of car you can keep for a few years. You buy all this crazy jazz, you're the one creating the obsolescence. It's only around because you support it. You want to be that crazy, it's your prerogative. It's a free country. Just don't ever say, Louis didn't warn you. Look, all you got to remember is, don't buy nothing that's going to wear out. Don't buy no gimmicks. Don't buy no crazy fashions. Look for the quality item. The one that's going to last. And tell them Louis sent you. So long. See you in the funny papers.
You're looking for a quality car, a real shooby-dooby. No need for shopping over town. Go see Louis.
That's right, friends. For exceptional value, the place to go is Louis' A1 Used Cars. We're open weeknights till 9, Sundays and holidays till midnight, and on a good night even later. So come on down to Louis' A1 Used Cars, where every deal is a steal.
Now drive on down to Louis' lot. He will show you what is. He'll make a deal right on the spot. Go see Louis.
Bad that it was so splicey. That would have been some great potential toe tapping tournament thing at the end. I don't know. You tell me. Maybe I'll try to find another version of the film that's maybe not so splicey at the end. But yeah, that was kind of fascinating. Definitely like films that are about for consumers, about what's happening with the products that they and services that they buy. I was a big fan of Consumer Reports as a kid. My parents got it, and so I would pore through the pages all the time, talking about things like scams and like weird, deceptive business practices of big companies and products. And obsolescence is definitely one of them. Certainly, we see now, we see how K-Cups and other types of things are using DMCA to create proprietary things, like inkjet cartridges and, like I said, K-cups, all coming up with different ways to where they sell you the thing cheap. They sell you the Keurig coffee maker cheap, but they know they can make it up in you acquiring the pods. They sell you the laser printer cheap because they know they can sell you the cartridges cheap, or just make money off the cartridges. There's an interesting, so he talks a lot about safety razors, and just that, things went nuts, as we know. What's interesting is that one of the things we transferred when we did a bunch of the Duke ad views, we did a whole thing about these razors and these razor refills that they made. It's basically these little safety razor refills that were modified in a way so that they would work in these blades, because somebody was trying to do that back in the 50s, and they were like, oh, well, these blades are just as good as these blades, and they're this much cheaper. So already there was that. In the 50s, they were beginning to do this, like, well, you have to use this official blade with this little tiny razor. Let's go to Another Moon. This film is baffling to me. The first couple times I saw it, I'm like, what is this about? And so maybe this time I can figure it out. Or maybe you can help me figure it out. Enjoy.
On Wednesday morning, July 16th, 1969, 3 citizens of Earth set out on a 4-day journey to the moon.
Liftoff. We have a liftoff. 32 minutes past the hour. Liftoff on Apollo 11.
This is Bucharest, Romania, a communist nation.
Power cleared.
Roger all.
Everyone shared in the journey to the new frontier. Neil Armstrong, Ed Aldrin, and Mike Collins had plenty of company. The miracle of television brought 600 million people into their tiny spaceship.
Apollo 11, this is Houston. You are confirmed to go for orbit.
Pope Paul.
Ave Maria, grazia plena, Dominus tecum, benedictus mulieribus et benedictus fructus ventris tui,
You are go for DLI, over.
The lunar module was launched and Mike Collins stayed behind in the command module.
Bye-bye, Eagle. We're standing by for your burn report, over.
London, England.
Burn was on time. The residuals before nulling, minus .1, minus .4.
In the LEM, Neil Armstrong of Wapakoneta, Ohio, and Ed Aldrin of Montclair, New Jersey, 250,000 miles from home.
Camera near the bottom of the screen, we can see a temple prayer.
Paris, France, the Palace of Discovery, an appropriate setting in which to wonder if man could walk upon the moon.
A series of depressions. I'll zoom the camera in and try and give you a little closer look at this.
4:17:20 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, July 20th, 1969. We touched down upon the moon. Six hours later, the television screen filled with the most memorable of images, man's first step upon the moon. Tokyo, Japan.
It's one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. The surface is fine and powdery. I can pick it up nicely with my toe. It does adhere in fine layers, like powdered purple to the
July 20th, 1969. For a few brief moments, the world became one. We all shared in a new frontier. Now there are other moons to reach for, just as there have always been other moons for other men. On May 20th, 1927, Charles Lindbergh set out to reach his moon, to become the first man to ever fly alone across the Atlantic Ocean. Millions shared in the suspense. Lindy was out of contact with Earth for 33 and a half hours. His safe landing was hailed as the achievement of the century. As television carried us all to the moon, back in the 1920s, radio carried us on the first solo flight across the Atlantic. Lindy's words and the words of others spoken about him were instantly carried across the nation by this new means of communication. Radio microphones were everywhere. And with radio, if you didn't get a chance to see him in New York, Washington, St. Louis, or San Francisco, you could hear all about it. Radio made it possible to share the experience. Everyone now shared in news events like this early air-to-air refueling experiment. Radio reporters brought the news into your home. You were there.
The refueling ship Patsy Ann is now taking off with the evening meal for Bryan and Jackson.
The refueling ship has just left the ground and to make another contact with the two human dynamos of the air.
Radio reminded us of man's continuous quest to build the biggest, the greatest of anything and everything. The world's largest violin, for
Tonight we
instance.
present Mr. Max Dolan, our musical director, who plays on the world's largest violin, accompanied by the musical musketeers under the direction of Walter B. Band.
Can you sound that A for me, please? Once again, please. Wait a minute, I think it's a little flat. I'll tune it out.
Will Rogers made news events something to understand and chuckle about, like the money owed to the U.S. since World War I.
You all know Mr. Owen D. Young, you know. He started the Young Plan in Europe. That was that every nation pay just according to what they could afford to pay, see? And, well, somebody else come along with an older plan than Young's plan, and it was that nobody don't pay anybody anything. And, of course, that's the oldest plan there is. And that's the one they're working under now.
Radio is one of the few things Thomas Edison didn't invent, but the great man enjoyed using the new medium. He helped honor the nation's brightest science students in 1930, and the home audience shared it.
It gives me very real pleasure to welcome you 49 young men from each state in the Union and the District of Columbia. I congratulate you all for having earned the right to compete to the final examination here. But let me say this to all of you. Do not count too heavily on your mental attainments. They are necessary to success. But remember always there is no substitute for hard work.
Exciting sports broadcasts help create a nation of sports fans.
It's going to be a tough game. It won't be long now before things get underway.
He's coming up nicely on the run. It's good, and it's going up in the air. Back goes Bledsoe. He takes on his 5. He's down his 10, 15, 20, 25, and he's down on the 30-yard line. The usual reverse with Bowman carrying, running through center. Bowman's getting in the clear, going for a touchdown. Hootstein's chasing him. Beautiful tackle by Hootstein. They dive across the turf for 5 yards. He passes it quickly.
Football made it big on radio, and so did golf, which had been a rich man's game.
This is one of the hardest days I've ever seen on a golf course.
In 1930, radio carried millions along on Bobby Jones' spectacular Grand Slam.
Comes Bobby Jones up to the 9th green with his usual large gallery.
Bobby Jones, an amateur, won golf's 4 greatest championships, all in the same year. Radio made Bobby the biggest hero since Lindbergh.
Oh, isn't he a wonderful golfer? And isn't he good looking?
New York City honored Bobby Jones, and then Bobby talked to the nation, followed by New York's Mayor Jimmy Walker.
All I can say is that I'm overcome by the very fine welcome that's been prepared for me here in New York, and I'm probably more happy than that to be back again.
These titles were won before you won them, and they will be won for years to come. But what we feel in our heart of hearts is that they will never have been won and never will be won by a more superlative sportsman and a finer gentleman in all civilization.
Just about then, it became possible to have a radio in your car for the first time.
We have a radio right here in the car, just like we have in our own home. Now let's see what we can get. What would you like, Patty?
Jazz.
Jazz? All right, we'll try WABC. There you are. Right there. Wonderful, we can ride all day and have music just like we have at home. Right in the broadcast, you know? Any station you want whatsoever. Remember?
Radio was there when 5 years to the day after Lindbergh's historic journey, Amelia Earhart set out to become the first woman to solo the Atlantic. With her was husband George on May 20th, 1932.
Well, you're all set, are you?
Yes, I think
Alrighty.
so.
Please don't forget the phone just the minute you get there, eh?
I will.
Goodbye.
So long.
Amelia Earhart took off from Newfoundland and 14 hours and 56 minutes later set down safely in Ireland. Her story inspired millions of young women to challenge new frontiers. Back home in Medford, Massachusetts, her family gathered around the radio to hear Amelia's first dramatic broadcast.
We are presenting Amelia Earhart Putnam, now in London, telling her own story of the flight.
About 11:30, the moon disappeared behind some clouds, and I ran into a storm. It was rather a severe one with lightning, and I was considerably buffeted about. About 4 hours out of Newfoundland, I noticed that the flames were coming through a broken well. However, the metal was very heavy, and I hoped it would last until I reached land.
I was sure Amelia would do it. I had not the moment's anxiety.
Then television came along, another moon. Radio had provided a miracle of worldwide communication. Yet by 1937, there were signs radio would have to take a back seat to this new electronic miracle.
Actual transmitting and receiving are filmed for the first time. Television camera is moved into place. It is compact and not cumbersome. Everything is under control on the stage, every intricate technical detail carefully checked. Now an actual television program with no faking attempted is brought to motion picture audiences. First, a singer takes the television spotlight.
It's long in blue, trees that fill the breeze.
Just as radio led us to the wonders of television, Charles Lindbergh, Amelia Earhart, and others like them led us into the age of space. And of course, once again, it's just a beginning. For example, would you be interested in taking the first commercial trip to the moon? When Pan American Airways began accepting applications, there were plenty of takers.
I'd like to go to the moon because when I was a little boy, the most impossible feat would be to go to the moon. And now that it's going to be accomplished, I'd like to see for myself what it's like up there.
People might say that's ridiculous, but you look, my grandfather in his time, he came in the 1800s, late 1800s, they were saying man couldn't go 25 miles an hour in a car. Now when the Wright brothers came, they had a crate, they didn't think that would ever fly, and look where we're going in airplanes now.
I flew around the world in Pan American, and everybody said, where are you going next? So I thought the moon would be the most logical place to go.
I'd like to know more about lunar madness, whether it actually stems from there and comes down to here and affects people various ways.
I signed up for the first moon flight because at the time there was only one man on the list from Scarsdale, and I thought I'd sign up to make it, a twosome.
I'd love to go. I think it would be an exciting adventure. Man always wants to go and see with his own eye and touch with his own hand. I think that quality in man will continue forever.
Astronaut Mike Collins says, man has always gone where he has been able to go. He will continue pushing back his frontier no matter how far it may carry him from his homeland. Someday in the not-too-distant future, when I listen to an Earthling step out onto the surface of Mars or some other planet, I hope I hear him say, I come from the United States of America. Mike Collins is talking about another moon. Your moon. Reach for it.
That was fascinating. I think, I've watched it, like I said, a couple of times, and I'm like, what's the point? Because there's a lot of talk about media. There's a lot of talk about... Yeah, I'm still really confused. Like, write in the comments what you think that film is really about. Yeah, it doesn't make it. It's not about going to the moon. Is it about striving for the next advance in technology? If so, it's really muddled, and I don't know. Certainly, we've shown muddled, confusing educational films before. Okay, so behind me, again, we have the scanner. This film has got some issues with, it's a little, it moves a lot. So much so that it actually is causing issues with scanner. So we're going to show it. It's called Imagination. Enjoy.
Winter. What is winter?
Pussy willows, patiently waiting for spring.
Your imagination can help you picture what winter is like.
Winter is a squirrel with a frosty brown coat.
Winter is cold and bitter, but winter makes spring so much the brighter.
A feeling to share. Red berry hidden in leaves. Discovering spring. With imagination, you can discover all sorts of things.
Trees with spring blossoms.
Nature in unexpected places. New friends with unexpected faces.
It's wonderful what you can do with your imagination. Like making wishes. Just use everyday words and add a little imagination. Rhonda made a wish about something she discovered in her garden.
I wish the tree in my backyard was big enough to climb. I wish the branches were strong enough for a swing.
Imagination. Let your imagination make a wish.
I wish we both were camels. Then I'd serve tea to you. I'd pass you the sugar, 1 lump or 2. I'd like to be a duck in the park and swim all day long.
If I had just one wish, I'd like to have wings and fly high into the sky.
Your imagination can make you anything or take you anywhere. Sometimes ordinary things are worth writing about. Things you see and hear. Charlotte imagined a desert whirlwind when she saw paper blowing on a sidewalk.
A whirlwind, not of leaves, that grasp the sand and whirl it with them on a prairie, but of paper and cigarette butts on a sidewalk.
It makes me happy to hear the clack of wheels moving on a track. Where are we going? Will we ever come back? How happy I'd be to take a ride and see the distant countryside, to see the forest rushing past and reach an unpolluted lake at last.
Stephen imagined a ride through the mountains when he heard the sound of a train. Susan and Fernando wrote about the city where they live. Barbara wrote about some common stones. Andy and Jim about an ocean trip they never really took. Gary wrote about what he likes to do best, riding his bicycle.
Bicycle riding is really thrilling. The air blowing in my face is rather chilling. I ride fast and I ride slow. I go. I'm turning many corners and going up hills, but I must be careful not to take a spill. I'm finally back home with no more turning. It's the end of my bicycle journey.
City. Buildings, traffic, riding to school. Imagine you live here. Home.
Houses high, houses low, houses everywhere I go, but from my window I can see between two houses one green tree.
You can see everyday things in a different way when you use your imagination.
Stones are colored. Stones are hard. Stones are cool, but we only take them for granted.
When you use your imagination, anything can happen.
We sailed across a pirate sea, not knowing what we'd meet. We waged a mighty battle against the pirate fleet. I was captain of the ship, and I first mate. We never really went there. We read it in a book. But what an exciting journey the two of us took.
When you use your imagination, you can tell others how you think and feel deep inside.
Flowers. Flowers can be big, flowers can be tall, flowers can be medium, flowers can be small. In the winter, when there are no more, it makes me feel so sad and bored. But when it's almost spring, you can imagine the sound of the bluebells ring.
Flowers, color, fragrance, growing in soil, sharing life with you, nature.
Rain is not ugly. Rain is the sky crying. The earth is happy to get wet. The whole world is changing with the weather.
Spring is fresh and green.
Summer is gay and radiant.
Autumn is wild and free.
Winter is still and silent.
Fresh and gay, wild and free, still and silent, that's me. The ocean. The ocean is full of billions of things. I'm sure the Marines should be as happy as kings.
You don't have to use a whole lot of words. Just say what you think. Say what you feel. Ocean. Fishes swimming. Watching the waves echoing your thoughts. Imagination. Everyone imagines different things about the ocean. Linda likes the colors and the changing moods.
The ocean changes like the summer leaf, not green to brown, but blue to gray on a cloudy day.
Imagination is used to express thoughts and feelings in many different languages. Susie and Loy speak Chinese as well as English.
Let's go.
Oh, I'll see you tomorrow.
Okay. Que nunca se termina, lleno de nubes blancas, que parece que vuelan, que se pone un azul oscuro.
Carlos speaks Spanish and English. Imagination works in every language.
Hace una luz preciosa. The sky, the moon, and the stars. That endless blue sky covered with fluffy white clouds that seem to fly. That turns to an eerie blue at night, which meets the stars and the big bright moon. And all together makes a beautiful, elegant light.
Whatever language you speak, whatever you like to do best, wherever you live, whatever you read or discover for yourself is worth thinking and writing about. Just use your imagination.
Kind of sweet film about imagination. Wasn't too wacky. We have other films about imagination that go really off the rails. I'm thinking about Malika Palika 2, which is just insane. Thanks for joining us today. As always, if you like what you saw, hit the thumbs up button. Smash the like button. Even if you've done it previously this week or this month, it's ways that help us. You can also subscribe and share, hit the notification bell, etc. If you like what you saw and you want to see some more, go to avgeeks.com, where we have a 24/7 channel running that has old lunch episodes and other things that we've scanned. You can also donate to patreon.com/avgeeks and buy us a coffee at ko-fi.com/avgeeks. As always, it's so great to see you. Everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will be back again tomorrow. As always, be aware that that little tiny house there has over 30,000 films in it now. That little innocuous house. But everybody have a great rest of your day, and we will see you soon. Take care.